Emily sat in the hallway, her eyes sparkling as they landed on the concert tickets she held tightly in her hands. She had been looking forward to this moment for weeks. When she heard footsteps, she glanced up and saw Misty emerging from the office. "Misty, guess what?" Emily exclaimed, her excitement barely contained. "We're finally going to see them perform live." Misty paused in the entryway, her face clouded with concern. Emily's enthusiasm faltered as she noticed the worried look on her friend's face. "Emily," Misty began hesitantly, "I have some bad news. I can't go." Emily's heart sank. "What? Why not?" she asked, trying to mask her disappointment. I have something important to do," Misty said, avoiding Emily's gaze. Emily's curiosity was piqued, and a playful suspicion crossed her mind. "Oh, is it a mysterious date you haven't mentioned?" Misty laughed softly, but there was no humour in it. "No, it's not a date." Emily's concern grew. "Then what's the reason? We've been looking forward to this concert for so long." Misty shifted her weight uncomfortably, looking down at her feet. "Please, let's just leave it at that," she said quietly. However, Emily's curiosity was insatiable. She watched as Misty stepped away to get some water from the kitchen. As she did, Emily's eyes landed on a piece of paper on the coffee table. Unable to resist, she picked it up and read the name, Mrs. Monica Benson. She knew that name well. It was Misty's ex-husband's mother. When Misty returned, Emily confronted her gently. "Why are you still helping your ex-husband's mother, Misty? You've been divorced for a long time. Why keep her in your life?" Misty remained silent for a moment, then sighed deeply. With a gentle smile, she replied, "Monica has always been good to me. Right now, she needs someone, and that someone is me." Emily's eyes bulged in disbelief. "Oh my God, Misty. I can't believe you're really saying these things right now. You deserve so much better." Sensing that Misty didn't like the direction the conversation was taking, Emily softened her tone. "I just think you deserve to be happy, that's all. You're so caring and you're still alone. You deserve to have some fun and meet someone nice. So forget about her for once and let's go to the concert." Misty shook her head, her expression resolute. "I'm really sorry, Emily, but I can't go today. Maybe next time. And about my happiness, this might sound foreign to you, but caring for Monica brings me happiness." Emily barely suppressed a laugh, realizing that Misty was right. The concept of finding joy in such selfless acts was indeed foreign to her. For Emily, kindness and humility were unfamiliar territories. Emily and Misty's friendship seemed genuine on the surface, but it was more like a shadow of true companionship. Beneath their interactions was a bond built on manipulation and selfish intentions. Misty, ever the kind and trusting soul, often overlooked Emily's actions, hoping for the best. But deep inside, she felt the uneven nature of their relationship. Whenever they stepped out together, Emily ensured she stood out. Her carefully selected outfits, attention-grabbing comments, and preferred places all seemed to serve one purpose: to outshine Misty and keep her in the background. The concert tickets incident was a prime example. Emily bragged about securing tickets to the hottest concert in town, yet she never considered whether it aligned with Misty's musical preferences. The deeper sting for Misty came during their social outings. Emily often made unsolicited comments about Misty's single status. At gatherings, she'd parade Misty around, introducing her to any single man present, her voice dripping with pity, as if Misty was a project needing intervention. But Misty could see through it. Emily's attempts to play matchmaker were not out of concern for Misty, but rather to spotlight herself and attract more attention. Misty often felt like a mere accessory in Emily's social game. Misty was a gentle soul, always finding it hard to decline any invitation, even if it wasn't to her liking. She usually accompanied her friends on their escapades, not wanting to upset anyone. However, today was different. There was another commitment she couldn't ignore. As they approached a bridge, the point where their paths would diverge, Emily tried once again to change Misty's mind about the concert. "Misty, you're being manipulated by your ex-mother-in-law. Put yourself first, come on. Do you want to die single?" Emily said, her tone a mix of frustration and urgency. Gathering her thoughts, Misty paused and looked at Emily. "Emily, I truly appreciate your concern for me. I believe that someday I'll find the right person, but today I need to head in a different direction." Emily's face twisted with confusion and irritation. "What are you talking about, Misty? You deserve to have some fun. Forget about her for one night and come to the concert with me." Misty shook her head gently. "It's not just about fun, Emily. Monica needs me right now. She's always been there for me, and I can't turn my back on her when she needs help." Emily crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "So you're just going to keep putting others first? What about your own happiness? Don't you want to meet someone nice and have a life of your own?" Misty sighed, a sad smile forming on her lips. "Caring for Monica brings me happiness, Emily. It might sound strange to you, but it's true, and I know my happiness isn't something you can understand right now." Emily barely suppressed a laugh. "Oh my God, Misty, I can't believe you're saying these things. You're too nice for your own good." Misty looked at her friend, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "I am who I am, Emily. I can't change that, and I don't want to. Please go and enjoy the concert. I'll be okay." Emily threw up her hands in exasperation. "Fine, do whatever you want, but don't say I didn't warn you." As Emily turned and walked away, Misty stood still for a moment, watching her friend go. With a deep breath, she turned and headed in the direction she needed to go, feeling a sense of peace about her decision. Misty stepped out into the crisp and icy air as it brushed against her cheeks. She drew in a deep breath, the cold filling her lungs and sharpening her senses. Her mind wandered to Monica, her mother-in-law, who was more like a second mother to her. Normally, Monica would have had the furnace roaring to life by this hour, warding off the bite of the sharp winter chill. However, on days when her migraines teamed up with bouts of high blood pressure, Monica was confined to the silence and darkness of her bedroom, unable to bear even the slightest noise or light. Concerned that today might be one of those difficult days for Monica, Misty's pace quickened as she walked towards the bus stop. Their home, a modest structure, had become theirs after her ex-husband's reckless spending lost them their previous apartment. It wasn't much, but it was filled with memories and moments that Misty held dear. Glancing at her wristwatch, Misty noted she had about 20 minutes before her bus would arrive. With her week's meagre earnings gripped tightly in her hand, she made a detour to the local pharmacy to pick up some essentials for Monica. Upon entering, she was greeted with the warm, familiar smile of Julie, the pharmacist who had known Monica for years. "Misty, dear, how are things with you and Monica?" Julie called out from behind the counter. Misty managed a small, weary smile as she approached. "Hi, Julie. It's much the same, really. No big changes," she replied, her voice a blend of fatigue and resilience. Julie's eyes softened with compassion as she handed over the medications. "Dear Misty, Monica is truly fortunate to have you. Despite all that's happened, you've stayed steadfast by her side," she remarked, admiration lacing her tone. "It's the least I can do." "Monica's like family to me," Misty responded, her voice low but sincere. Julie shook her head slightly, her expression mingling disbelief with pity. "I'll never understand how a woman as good-hearted as Monica could have raised such a son," she mused aloud, not for the first time. Misty nodded, acknowledging the sentiment without the need for further discussion. She collected the medications, thanked Julie, and stepped back into the cold. Misty had always held a certain belief in the magic of serendipity, a conviction that life could align moments in just the right way at just the right time. This belief was confirmed the day she stumbled into Stephen at a bustling local coffee shop. As she reached for her usual morning brew, their hands brushed momentarily, prompting both to look up. Their eyes locked in a crowded room, and it felt as if time momentarily paused. Misty could almost hear the soft hum of destiny in the air. The spark between them was undeniable, an immediate and deep connection that seemed orchestrated by the universe itself. Their casual meeting quickly blossomed into frequent coffee dates, where conversations flowed effortlessly. As days melded into weeks, and weeks spun into months, Misty found herself enveloped in a profound love for Stephen. Their bond deepened with each shared laugh and whispered secret, painting a vivid picture of a future together. 4 months after their fateful encounter, they found themselves at their cherished retreat by the beach, watching the horizon swallow the sun in a spectacular display of oranges and pinks. It was here, under the vast fading sky, that Stephen turned to Misty with a nervous yet hopeful smile. Pulling a small velvet box from his pocket, he asked her to marry him. Overwhelmed with joy and love, Misty didn't hesitate. Her heart knew the answer before her mouth could form the words. "Yes!" she exclaimed, her voice a mixture of laughter and tears. But then, a practical thought crossed her mind. "Stephen, I realise I haven't even met your parents yet." Stephen, understanding her sudden concern, reassured her. "Let's fix that. How about we visit my mum next weekend?" he suggested with an encouraging grin. The following weekend, Misty found herself at the doorstep of Monica's cosy, welcoming home. Monica, with her warm smile and open arms, greeted them as if Misty was already family. Inside, the house was filled with the aroma of fresh baking and the subtle notes of lavender. Monica ushered them into the living room, where photographs of Stephen at various ages adorned the walls, adding a personal touch to the decor. As the afternoon unfolded, Monica and Misty discovered a natural ease in each other's company, chatting about everything from family histories to favourite recipes. Monica shared stories of Stephen's childhood adventures, each tale woven with affection and a hint of mischief. Misty listened intently, laughing and occasionally glancing at Stephen, who seemed both embarrassed and amused. By the end of the day, it felt as though Misty and Monica had bridged the gap of years in mere hours. Monica's eyes, gleaming with approval and affection whenever she looked at Misty, left no doubt about her fondness for her. The warmth and connection were palpable, making Misty feel even more certain about her future with Stephen. As they left, Monica hugged Misty tightly, whispering, "You're exactly the person I hoped Stephen would find." Driving back, Misty reflected on the day's events, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and belonging. The universe, it seemed, continued to weave its serendipitous magic around her life, confirming that some things are indeed meant to be. A few weeks after her heartwarming visit, Misty's phone rang with an unexpected call from Monica, who sounded a mix of eager and anxious. "Misty, could you come over? There's something important we need to discuss." Monica's voice quivered slightly over the phone. As Misty stepped into the kitchen, the air felt thick with unspoken words. Monica beckoned her to sit at the kitchen table, where the scent of freshly brewed tea filled the room, an attempt at comfort that seemed feeble against the gravity of the conversation they were about to have. As Monica poured the tea, her hands shook subtly, betraying her nerves. "Misty, there's something about Stephen you need to know," Monica began, her voice thick with hesitation and a palpable fear of the words she was about to speak. "He has been married twice before." She paused, allowing the weight of her confession to settle between them, as if the words themselves were difficult to say and even harder to hear. Misty felt a cold shiver run down her spine, her initial shock morphing into a creeping dread. How could the Stephen she knew, the one she had grown to trust, keep such a secret? She felt betrayed yet compelled to understand more. her heart torn between her feelings for him and the sinking realization that there was so much she didn't know. Monica's voice cracked as she continued, "He's my son, and I love him beyond words. But I've watched him walk through the wreckage of his past marriages, and it breaks my heart to think of you walking that same painful path." Misty sat, her thoughts a turbulent storm. She was touched by Monica's bravery. A mother, revealing her son's flaws to protect someone he cared about, was an act of immense love and sacrifice. "Thank you for telling me," Misty managed to say, her voice a mixture of appreciation and sorrow. The silence stretched between them, heavy and contemplative, until Misty found her voice. "Stephen has always been kind and loving toward me," she said, her words laced with confusion and a hint of defiance. The contrast between the man she knew and the revelations about his past was jarring, and she grappled with her swirling emotions. Misty's eyes met Monica's, filled with a poignant mix of hope and uncertainty. "We don't know what the future holds," she continued, her voice softer now, reflective. "I want to believe in the best, in a future where this doesn't define us." Monica's smile was tender, touched by the sincerity and resilience in Misty's words. "I hope so too, dear. And remember, I'm here for you, no matter what happens," Monica reassured, her voice gentle, acknowledging the complex path that lay ahead for Misty. Their conversation drew to a close with a tight embrace, a physical manifestation of their shared understanding and the strength they both would need. As they parted, Misty's steps were heavy, her mind a tumult of emotions, doubt, fear, love, and a desperate hope. Her heart, once clear in its affection, now throbbed with uncertainty as she tried to envision a future with Stephen under this new, unsettling light. In the days that followed, Misty wrestled with her thoughts. She chose not to confront Stephen immediately, holding on to her belief in redemption and the power of second chances. She focused on Stephen's daily acts of kindness and love, convincing herself that the past was just that, past. Time passed, and the day came when they exchanged vows in front of their closest friends and family, Monica among them, her eyes brimming with tears. As Misty embarked on her new life with Stephen, she often reflected on her crucial conversation with Monica. It was a stark reminder of the importance of trust, open dialogue, and acknowledging that everyone has a past. However, life soon took a challenging turn. In their quaint home, reminders of past decisions lingered. Stephen, driven by lofty ambitions, had convinced both Misty and his mother to invest their savings into his latest business venture. The plan, filled with promises of high returns, turned disastrous. Stephen eventually admitted the harsh truth. Not only had their investment evaporated, but they were now buried in debt. Both Monica and Misty felt the sting of betrayal deeply. As they faced the grim reality together, Misty's earlier conversations with Monica echoed in her mind, a bitter reminder of the complexity of trust and the shadows of past actions. They were grappling with more than just broken trust. They were also bombarded with relentless, intimidating phone calls from creditors. Deep down, Misty hoped this was just a rough patch, like any young family might go through. She held on to the belief that they would find a way through this and that things would get better eventually. However, another worry weighed heavily on them, casting a shadow over their already strained relationship. In the first year of their marriage, the pressure to have children began to create cracks in their bond. Stephen and Misty had dreamed of raising a family together, but the reality was proving challenging. Misty tried to maintain a positive outlook and be understanding, but she could see Stephen's patience fading. His reluctance to see a doctor stemmed from a mix of fear and outdated ideas about manhood being tied to fertility. One evening, as they sat in the dim light of their living room, Misty gently broached the subject again. "Stephen, I know this is hard for you, but maybe seeing a specialist could help us. It doesn't make you less of a man to seek help," she said softly, reaching for his hand. Stephen sighed, looking away. I know, Misty. It's just, I thought things would be different. I thought we'd be able to do this one thing right, he said, his voice tinged with frustration. Misty squeezed his hand. We're in this together no matter what. Whatever comes, we'll face it as a team, okay? The chill of one evening seeped into the bones of their home, intensifying the tension that had been building for months. Dinner had passed in silence, the clinking of cutlery against plates, the only sound breaking the heavy quiet. As they cleared the table, Stephen's frustration boiled over. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the reason we can't start a family, he accused, his words slicing through the still air. Misty froze, a plate in her hand, shock rendering her speechless. The hurt from his words felt like a physical blow. They had not even visited a doctor, and here he was, casting blame so carelessly. The once warm and loving home they had built now felt cold, the air thick with unsaid things and regrets. How can you say that? Misty finally managed, her voice trembling. We haven't even tried to find out if there's a problem. Stephen's face was a mask of mixed emotions. I'm tired of waiting for something to change. The rift between them grew with each passing day, marked by cold shoulders and avoided glances. The intimacy and laughter that once filled their rooms had vanished, leaving behind a void filled with uncertainty and pain. The breaking point came unexpectedly. One somber evening, Stephen returned home late, his eyes avoiding hers, a sure sign of guilt. I need to be honest with you, he began hesitantly. I've been seeing someone else. Misty felt as if the ground had vanished beneath her. The room spun as her heart shattered. Why? Was the only word she could muster. I thought maybe she could give me a family, Stephen whispered. Misty's world crumbled, raised to cherish the sanctity of marriage. She had believed in the forever they had promised each other on their wedding day. Stephen wasn't just her husband. He was her first and only love. To hear him betray their vows so blatantly was unbearable. When Monica, Misty's confidant and mother-in-law, heard what had transpired, she was furious. How could you do this to her? Monica confronted Stephen, her anger palpable. She deserves your loyalty, not this betrayal. How can you walk away from someone so genuine? She demanded of Stephen. The house that once echoed with the promise of a future together was now just a reminder of what had been lost. As Misty packed her things, tears streaming down her face, the finality of her decision weighed heavily on her heart. Despite the pain, she knew she needed to find a place where she could heal and start anew, away from the echoes of broken promises. Monica hugged her tightly, whispering words of support. You're strong, Misty. You can get through this. Monica had always embraced Misty as the daughter she never had, showering her with the love and warmth she reserved for family. When Stephen betrayed Misty, Monica felt the sting of betrayal as sharply as if she had been wronged herself. The pain was compounded when Stephen, consumed by his own desires, turned his back on the family they had once been, marrying the other woman he believed could fulfill his dreams of fatherhood. As the days bled into weeks and weeks into months, the chasm between Monica and her son widened. His new wife, the woman who now occupied what had once been Misty's place, made no efforts to bridge the growing gap. She never visited Monica, nor did she reach out in any way. The stark absence of connection left Monica wrestling with a profound sense of abandonment. One cold, dreary afternoon, as Monica sat by the window watching the rain streak down the glass, her thoughts wandered to the happier times when laughter filled her home. The silence now was deafening, a stark reminder of her solitude. Her heart ached not just for the loss of Misty, but for her son too, who had become a stranger to her. Misty noticed the pain and nostalgia in Monica's eyes. After a moment's pause, Monica gestured for Misty to sit beside her, ready to share a chapter from her past. Misty, when I was about your age, I was engaged to a man named Brian, whom I considered the love of my life, Monica began, her voice tinged with a hint of sorrow. I also had a close friend, Lucy. Or at least, I thought she was a friend. Monica sighed heavily, the weight of the memories pressing down on her. As the wedding drew near, I discovered that Brian had fallen in love with Lucy. Worse still, she became pregnant with his child. The betrayal was devastating. The man I loved and my supposed best friend had turned my world upside down. Monica paused, lost in the past for a moment before continuing. Heartbroken, I watched them move away to start a new life together. However, a few years later, I received an unexpected call from Lucy. She was distraught. Brian had left her, and she struggled to find love again as a single mother. She often turned to drink to cope with her loneliness and regrets. A note of sadness crept into Monica's voice as she spoke of Lucy's final days. Her health deteriorated rapidly. Realizing she had limited time, Lucy asked me to take care of her son, Stephen. The bond I formed with him was instant, even though he was a constant reminder of my past heartache. I couldn't abandon him, especially after Lucy passed away. Her dying wish was for me to always be there for Stephen. I willingly accepted, having grown to genuinely love the boy. Misty listened, her eyes brimming with tears as she grasped the depth of Monica's compassion and the intricate ties of their shared past. Overwhelmed by the revelations, she whispered, softly, "Oh, Monica." The parallels between their stories struck Misty deeply. Both women had endured heart-wrenching betrayals by those they had loved most, creating a poignant echo through their lives. It felt as though history had somehow repeated itself, binding them together in a tapestry woven from shared pain and resilience. "Monica, how did you find the strength to move on?" Misty asked, her voice barely above a whisper, seeking wisdom from the woman who had become her confidant and guide through the murky waters of heartache. Monica took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting a mix of sorrow and strength. "Time and a lot of reflection," she replied gently. "But more than anything, Misty, it was learning to forgive. Not for them, but for me. It freed me from the past and gave me the courage to embrace the future, no matter how uncertain." Misty nodded, the lessons from Monica's experience slowly sinking in. As they sat together, the room filled with a silent understanding, a mutual recognition of their intertwined journeys of pain and healing. Over time, Misty was devastated as she watched how Stephen's neglect deeply affected Monica, causing her health to decline rapidly. The stress and sadness took their toll, and Monica soon suffered a stroke. During her recovery, many of their friends and even some family members suggested that Misty consider moving Monica to a specialized care center. They argued that Monica's needs might be beyond what Misty could manage, emphasizing that, after all, Monica wasn't truly her blood relative. Even Monica, in a moment of clarity, gently urged Misty to think about the care center, likely trying to ease the burden on her. But Misty was resolute. She saw Monica as family, not defined by blood, but by bond, and she was determined to care for her. Clinging to the belief that with enough love and dedicated care, Monica could regain her strength and perhaps even walk again, Misty continued her caregiving with unwavering dedication. Despite the skepticism from doctors about Monica's potential recovery, Misty's determination never faltered. One quiet afternoon, as they shared a moment of calm, Misty asked softly, "Monica, did you ever think of looking for Brian after everything that happened?" Monica paused, taking a deep breath before she replied with a weary sigh. "I loved Brian deeply, Misty, but I never went looking for him. After he left, I figured he'd made a new life, probably with a family, and I thought, why should I disrupt that? Why look for someone who chose to walk away? Her voice was tinged with resignation, but also with the strength of someone who had come to terms with her past. When the shuttle reached her stop, Misty stepped out and started her walk home. A plume of smoke billowing from her chimney caught her eye, offering a brief moment of relief. It meant Monica had managed to light the stove. But as Misty approached her house, her heart sank. An ambulance, frosted over from the cold, was parked outside, indicating it had been there for a while. Panic surged within her as she quickened her pace, her mind swirling with anxious thoughts. Rushing inside, Misty's fears were confirmed. Monica had suffered another stroke. She raced to the hospital, her heart lodged in her throat. At the hospital, Monica slowly regained consciousness, greeted by a dull ache on her left side. She attempted to wiggle her fingers, but they felt heavy and unresponsive. As her eyes adjusted to the harsh hospital lights, fragmented memories of the previous night trickled back. The urgency in Misty's voice, the glaring lights of the ambulance, and the reassuring presence of the paramedics. Sitting next to her bed was Misty, a comforting, familiar presence. Monica tried to speak, but her words were slurred and unclear. Misty looked up, her eyes deep blue like the ocean, radiating warmth that immediately soothed Monica's nerves. "Don't worry," Misty said gently, her voice as soft as a feather. "The doctors said you might have some trouble talking for a bit, but don't worry, I'm right here with you." Monica blinked, trying to express her gratitude without words. Noticing Monica's confused look, Misty continued to explain. "You had another stroke, but you managed to call for help, you know. You were strong enough to do that." Despite what her colleagues and friends advised, Misty made a life-altering decision. She left her job. Many around her struggled to comprehend why she would choose to dedicate her life to caring for the mother of a man who had deeply hurt her. They couldn't see the layers of compassion and commitment that drove her. For Misty, the choice was clear. She often pondered how she would feel if their roles were reversed, if it was she who faced loneliness and daunting health challenges. Wouldn't she wish for someone to stand by her, to offer a hand in the darkest times? These thoughts solidified her resolve. Misty wanted to be that person for Monica regardless of past grievances. As the weeks turned into months, Monica slowly began to regain her strength, and Misty was her steadfast supporter every step of the way. During Monica's speech therapy sessions, Misty was always there, offering words of encouragement and celebrating every small victory. She held Monica's hand during those first tentative steps, providing both physical support and emotional strength. One afternoon, as some old tunes filled the living room, a spontaneous moment of joy overtook them. Misty reached out to Monica, inviting her to dance. With a laugh, Monica accepted, and they twirled around the living room. Misty led gently, ensuring Monica felt secure. The music brought back memories of brighter days and promised new ones ahead. They danced in a slow, rhythmic pattern, the music and their laughter mingling in the air, healing some of the deep wounds of the past. Soon after, Misty returned to her job, only to find that the company had undergone significant changes. A new management team was in place, headed by Eddie, the new owner. Eddie was not just focused on the bottom line. He was genuinely interested in his employees, taking the time to understand their backgrounds and personal stories. Word of Misty's selfless dedication to caring for an elderly woman had spread throughout the office. Eddie found himself deeply moved by her compassion and commitment. It was often mentioned that she had cared for someone to whom she had no blood ties, a fact that Eddie found particularly inspiring. However, what he didn't realise was the true depth of their connection. Misty's work ethic stood out sharply against the backdrop of other employees. From her first day back, she exhibited a level of commitment and discipline that distinguished her from her peers. Eddie admired this about her, but he was also struck by a burning curiosity about her personal life. Unlike her colleagues, who often engaged in casual office chatter, Misty maintained a quiet air of mystery, seldom sharing details about her private world. Then there was Emily. She was the life of the office, always buzzing with energy and laughter. Her presence was like a beacon in the break room or by the elevators, where she would be found engaged in lively conversations, her laughter echoing down the hallways. While her vibrant personality brightened the days of many colleagues, Eddie sometimes found her constant chatter a bit overwhelming. He often wondered how she managed to balance her sociable tendencies with her workload. Yet Emily seemed to handle it well, often staying late to finish her tasks after spending much of her day socializing. One particularly busy day, a critical project came down the pipeline. As the leader, it was Eddie's responsibility to assign tasks. He divided the workload, giving the heaviest and most complex parts to Misty, whose quiet diligence and exceptional track record made her the obvious choice. Emily was tasked with a smaller yet crucial segment of the project. As days ticked by, Misty methodically worked through her tasks. Eddie, checking in periodically, was always met with a calm nod or a brief update assuring him that all was on track. Misty's steady progress contrasted sharply with Emily's approach. Emily's frequent coffee breaks and extended chats, usually harmless, began to take a toll on her productivity. Her portion of the project lagged, and as the deadline drew near, her usual brightness was tinged with panic. The tension in the office mounted. One afternoon, as the deadline loomed just days away, Eddie approached Emily's desk. He noticed the stacks of uncompleted work and saw the stress in her eyes. "Emily, how are things going? We're getting close to the wire," he said, trying to keep his tone light yet firm. Emily looked up, her usual cheer dampened by anxiety. "I know, Eddie. I'm a bit behind," she admitted, biting her lip. "I've let the time slip a bit too much, but don't worry, I'll get it done." Eddie nodded, understanding the pressure she was under. "I know you can handle it, Emily. Just remember, it's okay to cut down on the coffee breaks a bit to focus. We all depend on each other here." One ordinary day, the office kitchen became the scene of an unexpected emotional moment. Eddie, on his usual mid-morning stroll through the office, walked in to find Emily sitting alone, her face buried in her hands. Concerned by the sight, he approached her gently and asked, "Everything all right, Emily?" Lifting her head, Emily revealed tear-streaked cheeks as she confessed, "I've fallen behind, Eddie. I thought I could manage, but it's just too much." Her voice trembled with the strain of her admission. Eddie offered a comforting smile, trying to alleviate her worry. "Don't worry, Emily. We'll work something out. You're not in this alone," he reassured her, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. At that moment, Misty entered the kitchen, intending only to refill her coffee cup quickly. However, upon noticing Emily's evident distress, she paused. The sight tugged at her compassionate nature, prompting her to say, "I can chip in after I'm done with my part." Her offer took both Emily and Eddie by surprise, reflecting the solidarity and support that often went unspoken within their team. Misty's dedication shone brightly when she handed in her part of the project. Not only had she completed her assigned tasks with meticulous attention to detail, but she had also included thoughtful recommendations that surpassed everyone's expectations. Eddie reviewed her work, astounded by the initiative and insight she brought to the table. On a day heavy with stress as the project deadline loomed, Misty arrived at her desk to find a delightful surprise, a vibrant bouquet of flowers. She paused, her eyes scanning the room, half expecting someone to claim a delivery mistake. The bouquet, with its array of colourful blooms, not only brightened her workspace, but also brought a puzzled smile to her face. She couldn't help but wonder who might have thought to brighten her day in such a thoughtful way. Emily, the office's central hub for all gossip, prided herself on knowing everything from secret crushes to behind-the-scenes drama. Yet, the bouquet on Misty's desk was a mystery she hadn't seen coming. Emily usually revelled in being the go-to person for the latest updates, but it was unusual for someone as reserved as Misty to suddenly be at the centre of office chatter. Misty, for her part, was absorbed in figuring out the origin of the bouquet. Tucked among the flowers was a dainty card with a message written in neat handwriting. "For the light you bring, even when you're not aware." The message was sweet, but it was unsigned, leaving no clues about the sender. Sean from the procurement department couldn't resist joining the growing crowd around Misty's desk. With a cheeky grin, he teased, "Looks like someone's smitten with you," and gave her a playful wink. Flustered by the attention, Misty responded, "I really can't figure out who sent them." Throughout the morning, Misty's desk became a hub of speculation. People cracked jokes and shared wild theories about the identity of the mystery sender. Emily, keen to regain her status as the office storyteller, chimed in with a tease, "I bet it's from that handsome new guy in finance," pointing towards a young man in a wheelchair who had recently joined the team. The playful banter continued, with colleagues offering their own humorous guesses. By noon, the constant buzz had overwhelmed Misty. Though she cherished the flowers and the thought behind them, the relentless attention was more than she bargained for. Needing a moment to escape the commotion, Misty decided to slip away for a quiet lunch outside, hoping for some peace, away from the curious eyes and endless speculation. A few days later, as Misty was deeply focused on her work, the sudden appearance of a courier at her desk caught her off guard. He was holding an extravagant basket of flowers. "Misty?" he inquired, looking around slightly. She looked up, surprised, and nodded. "Yes, that's me." "Please sign here," he said, handing her a slip. After she scribbled her signature, he placed the lavish floral arrangement on the floor beside her desk and made a hasty exit. Emily, always keen on drama, couldn't resist but approach to inspect the new bouquet. Though she tried to hide it, a glint of envy was evident in her eyes. "Another surprise for you, Misty. What's the story this time?" she asked, her voice dripping with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Emily, being younger and in her own opinion more attractive, couldn't fathom why Misty, who she considered quiet and unassuming, was receiving such attention. "I honestly don't know," Misty responded, her cheeks flushing with slight embarrassment. "It could be a mix-up." Emily smirked, not missing a beat. "I've never heard about any romantic interests in your life. Did you order these for yourself? Maybe to pretend someone's interested?" Her tone was teasing, yet sharp. As Emily leaned over to inspect the flowers, she mumbled about their expensive appearance, suggesting that they looked too fancy for a simple mix-up. Choosing not to engage with Emily's probing or sarcastic remarks, Misty simply returned to her work, letting the bouquet sit there as an unsolved yet beautiful mystery. Her silence and focus on her tasks left Emily with no more fuel for her gossip, effectively cooling down the conversation to a mere whisper around the office. Every morning, like clockwork, a fresh bouquet appeared on Misty's desk. The daily arrival of flowers had turned into a significant talking point around the office, with whispers and chuckles filling the air. Emily, never one to miss an opportunity for commentary, fueled the rumours even further. Some colleagues playfully teased Misty, twirling their fingers by their heads and suggesting she might have lost touch with reality. "She's probably buying them herself," they'd whisper among themselves. "Who spends all their money on flowers just to feel special?" Feeling increasingly isolated, Emily had taken to completely avoiding Misty, not uttering a single word to her. While Misty noticed the cold shoulder, she chose not to address it. "Let them believe whatever they want," she thought to herself, trying to maintain her composure amid the swirling rumours. However, The relentless flower deliveries were beginning to affect her concentration at work. It wasn't the flowers themselves that distracted her, but the incessant chatter and speculation they sparked. Determined to put an end to the mystery, Misty decided to investigate who was behind these gestures and why. As she was about to head out for lunch one day, her routine took an unexpected turn. A man in a chauffeur's cap and uniform held the main door open for her. Surprised, Misty glanced up, her curiosity piqued. Before she could react, the man guided her toward a sleek sedan parked right in front of the office building and opened the passenger door for her. Caught in a whirlwind of confusion, Misty felt as if she were in a surreal dream. She pinched herself to confirm the reality of the moment. Regaining her composure, she finally voiced her bewildered thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, but what's going on? What does all this mean? Who's behind all this?" she asked, her voice tinged with a mix of anxiety and intrigue. The driver, initially puzzled by her questions, soon broke into a warm smile, his demeanour reassuring. "You'll find out soon enough, madam. Please have a seat in the car," he encouraged gently. With a hesitant step, Misty climbed into the vehicle, her mind racing with possibilities. As the car pulled away from the curb, her heart pounded with anticipation and a touch of fear. Who could be orchestrating these elaborate gestures? And more importantly, why? The surreal atmosphere enveloped Misty as the sleek sedan pulled up to one of the city's most elegant restaurants. The grand entrance, bathed in soft, welcoming lights, seemed to transport her to a scene straight out of a movie. Stepping inside, she was greeted by the gentle hum of conversation, the air rich with the scent of gourmet cuisine. A waiter, recognizing her immediately, flashed a warm smile and gestured for her to follow. They navigated through the bustling tables toward a secluded spot at the back of the restaurant. As they approached, Misty saw a figure seated with his back to her, his identity obscured. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and nerves. Finally, standing before the table, the man turned around, revealing himself with a friendly greeting. "Hello, Misty. Please join me." To her astonishment, it was Eddie, the new owner of her company. The candlelight at the table cast a soft glow on his features, accentuating his gentle smile. Misty, taken aback, felt a whirlwind of surprise, curiosity, and a touch of nervousness wash over her. Eddie had first heard of Misty's profound kindness toward her former mother-in-law through murmurs around the office. Intrigued by her story, he found it hard to believe such selflessness was real. Wanting to see for himself, he had visited Monica while Misty was at work, introducing himself merely as a colleague from her office, curious to confirm the reasons behind Misty's extended leave. Meeting Monica had been a revelation. Eddie had listened intently as Monica shared stories of Misty's compassion and unwavering support. Witnessing firsthand the impact of Misty's actions and the truth behind her character deepened his respect for her significantly. For Eddie, understanding the character and integrity of his employees was not just important, it was essential. Now, sitting across from her, Eddie began to explain his actions. "Misty, I hope you don't mind this surprise. I wanted to meet with you in a setting away from all the office noise to personally express my admiration for what you've done. Your dedication to Monica and the values you embody are truly inspirational." Misty, still processing the evening's unexpected turn, managed to smile. "Thank you, Eddie. This is all a bit overwhelming, but I appreciate your kind words and this lovely dinner." Beyond his professional curiosity, Eddie had a personal reason for wanting to learn more about Misty. Eddie had always been particular about the kind of qualities he admired in a person. Despite the frequent nudges from his mother to find someone special and settle down, he remained single, disheartened by how many seemed to value material wealth over genuine connections and feelings. He was drawn not to physical appearances but to a person's inner character and values. It was this intrinsic quality that heightened his interest in Misty after learning of her selfless actions toward Monica. As they sat across from each other at their unexpected lunch, the conversation took a lighter turn. Misty chuckled and said, "You really went overboard with all those flowers, didn't you?" Eddie, a hint of embarrassment colouring his cheeks, nodded. "I apologise if it was overwhelming. I just thought you deserved something beautiful every day." He paused, gathering his thoughts before continuing. "Honestly, I didn't know how to approach you directly. I've never really tried to win someone over before, so I guess I went a bit overboard with the flowers as a way to show my interest." Misty shook her head in amusement, her smile broadening. "Well, thanks to your little gesture, there's a running joke in the office that I've been sending them to myself." Eddie laughed heartily at that, his eyes crinkling at the corners with genuine amusement. "I guess we've given them quite the story, haven't we?" The mood at the table was light and filled with easy laughter. Their meal seemed to pass quickly as they shared stories and perspectives on life and work. Misty appreciated Eddie's candidness and was touched by his thoughtful, albeit extravagant, attempts to show his admiration. As their plates were cleared, Eddie leaned in slightly, his expression turning a tad more serious. "Misty, I hope you know my intentions are sincere. It's rare to meet someone whose actions so profoundly embody their values. You've really made an impression on me." Misty felt a warm glow at his words. It was refreshing to meet someone who valued the deeper aspects of a person's character. "Thank you, Eddie. That means a lot to me, especially coming from you." At some point in their conversation, Misty felt a pressing need to open up about her past. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she looked into Eddie's eyes and said, "Before things progress further, there's something I need to share with you. I was married once before." Eddie met her gaze with understanding and a gentle smile. "I already know about it," he replied softly. "Your past is a part of you, but it doesn't define our present. We all have stories, Misty." This reassurance made Misty feel at ease, realising Eddie valued who she was now, not who she had been. As time passed, Eddie and Misty began spending more time together, not formally dating, but exploring what could be. Having experienced the pain of a failed marriage, Misty was cautious about moving too fast. They agreed to keep their growing relationship private to avoid workplace gossip. With Monica recovering well, life seemed almost dreamlike for Misty, everything falling into place, just right. However, when Eddie proposed promoting her at work, she hesitated and ultimately declined. She explained, "If you need assistance, I'm here to help. But please, let's keep it discreet." Her response only deepened Eddie's admiration, convinced he had found someone genuinely special. But secrets, however well kept, have a way of coming to light. One evening, a colleague unexpectedly spotted Eddie and Misty in a tender moment outside of work. Before long, whispers and rumours about their relationship began circulating through the office corridors. When Emily heard the gossip, her jealousy flared. She had long harboured an attraction to Eddie and had made several unsuccessful attempts to draw his attention. Confronting Misty, Emily bombarded her with questions, hoping to unsettle her. Misty, maintaining her composure, chose to remain silent, which only fueled Emily's suspicions further. Driven by envy, Emily began to weave malicious stories about Misty, falsely claiming that Misty's ex-husband had left her due to financial irresponsibility. Emily's motives were transparent to some, but her tales found eager ears among those hungry for office drama. Eddie, for his part, remained aloof to Emily's advances, dismissing her flirty comments and dinner invitations with humour and citing his busy schedule as a polite rebuff. He was fully aware of Emily's tactics and remained focused on what he felt was right, supporting Misty through the burgeoning office scandal. One day, Emily, fueled by a mix of jealousy and frustration, stormed into Eddie's office. Her face was flushed with anger as she confronted him. "I can't believe you're seriously considering a relationship with Misty. Do you even know her past? She was married and sold their apartment, causing her husband to run off. You're risking everything by being with someone like her." Eddie, who had been expecting this confrontation, remained calm and composed. He stood and walked towards the window, his back to Emily as he spoke. "I'm aware that Misty was married," he began, his voice steady. He turned to face her, meeting her gaze with a firm look. "I also know why her husband left her. He left her for another woman." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in before delivering the final blow. "And that woman, Emily, was you." Emily's reaction was instantaneous and visible. Her face shifted from anger to shock, then to disbelief. She had not anticipated that her secret involvement with Misty's ex-husband would ever come to light, especially not here, not with Eddie. After speaking with Monica, Eddie did his due diligence. He tracked down Stephen, Misty's ex-husband, and learned the truth directly from him. The promise of quick cash loosened Stephen's lips, revealing the real story. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension and the gravity of the revealed secrets. Emily's past actions, driven by envy and a desire to usurp what Misty had finally caught up with her. Her schemes were laid bare, unravelling before her very eyes. Emily had always been drawn to what Misty possessed. Her jealousy had intensified when she caught Stephen's attention, relishing not just the attraction, but the thrill of taking something from Misty. Their secret relationship had escalated quickly, filled with whispered conversations and clandestine meetings. Once they had even met in Misty's apartment, a bold move that underscored the depth of Emily's disregard for boundaries. Pushing Stephen into a corner, Emily had manipulated him into selling the apartment under the guise of a business investment, threatening to expose their affair if he refused. Now, faced with the reality of her actions being public knowledge within the walls of the company, Emily stood speechless, her face pale, her earlier confidence shattered. The weight of her actions pressed down on Emily as Eddie laid out her treachery. "To think you would betray your best friend like that," Eddie murmured, shaking his head in disbelief. "She's done so much for you, and this is how you repay her?" Eddie was torn. Part of him wanted Emily to face the full consequences of her actions. Yet, he also considered what Misty, with her kind heart, might do in his place. After a moment of contemplation, he spoke, his voice firm but measured. "I won't tell Misty about this. She's endured enough heartache already. But you will leave her alone. No more schemes, no more rumours. And while I won't dismiss you from the company, I expect you to act professionally. Any harm directed at my family, and there will be consequences." The room echoed with Eddie's final words, leaving Emily to reckon with her deeds. The once vibrant chatterbox of the office retreated into her shell, the weight of her actions heavy upon her. Misty, always one to think the best of people, grew concerned for her once close friend. Emily's sudden withdrawal and eventual absence from work left a noticeable void. Misty felt a pang of sadness and confusion over Emily's abrupt departure. When Misty inquired about Emily's sudden absence, Eddie simply told her that Emily had decided to move and start anew. Amidst the turmoil at the office, Misty had an important event approaching, meeting Eddie's mother, Grace. It was a significant milestone for any couple, and Misty felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Since her own parents were no longer around, Misty decided to bring Monica, her former mother-in-law, to the dinner. Grace, with her elegant demeanour and sharp, attentive gaze, greeted them warmly. Her years of meticulous work as an accountant had given her a discerning eye, but she welcomed Misty and Monica with genuine kindness. From the moment Misty introduced Monica, the two women clicked. They both had experienced their share of life's ups and downs, and as the evening progressed, they exchanged stories, laughed together, and found comfort in each other's company. Grace recounted tales from her accounting days, and Monica shared anecdotes from her past, filling the room with warmth and laughter. As Misty and Eddie watched, it became clear that a beautiful friendship was blossoming between Monica and Grace. Eddie squeezed Misty's hand under the table, and she returned the gesture, feeling a sense of relief and joy that their families were melding so seamlessly. During a quiet moment, Grace turned to Misty and said, "I can see why Eddie speaks so highly of you. You're a remarkable woman, Misty." Misty blushed slightly, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Grace. It means a lot to hear you say that." Monica added, "Grace, I'm so glad we got to meet. It's rare to find someone you connect with so effortlessly." Grace smiled warmly. "I feel the same, Monica. We must do this again soon." As the night drew to a close, Misty felt a profound sense of belonging. The evening had been a success, not just in meeting Grace, but in forging a new, unexpected bond between Monica and Grace. As Misty became more involved in Eddie's business ventures, their professional collaboration turned heads in the office. Whispers turned into open discussions, and before long, everyone knew about their romance. The two had become the most talked about couple at the company, but this time for all the right reasons. Their partnership symbolized strength, trust, and a shared vision that inspired their colleagues. One chilly evening, as Misty prepared to leave the office parking lot, a familiar car caught her eye. The office was almost deserted, with everyone heading off to celebrate New Year's Eve with their families. As Misty wrapped up her final report, she saw Eddie step out from behind the parked car, holding a huge bouquet of pristine white roses. "Come on, it's New Year's Eve, work can wait," Eddie playfully chastised her, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Laughing, Misty replied, "I'm sorry, love. Just had that one last report to wrap up." That night, in the warmth of Eddie's home, they enjoyed an intimate dinner. During a quiet moment, Monica rose from her seat, her eyes shimmering with tears. She gazed deeply at Misty, her voice filled with emotion. "I might have lost Stephen, but in his place, I gained a precious daughter and a wonderful son," she said, her words touching everyone at the table. Fast forward 2 months, Eddie and Misty were happily married in a small, heartfelt ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. Just 4 months later, Misty decided to resign from her job, following Eddie's gentle insistence that she focus on their growing family. The couple had even more joyous news to share. They were expecting a baby. Misty's journey was a testament to the power of resilience and kindness. Despite the challenges she faced, she held on to her values, to always lend a helping hand and to be kind. As her life continued to unfold, it was clear that these values had indeed come back to her, enriching her life tenfold. This story was one of love, redemption, and new beginnings. It showed that, even through life's toughest moments, holding on to one's integrity and compassion could lead to the most unexpected and beautiful outcomes. And so, as they looked forward to the future, Misty and Eddie embraced each new day with gratitude, their hearts full of hope and joy for the adventures yet to come.